The weekend, we did get a development on the story of the controversial Uasin Gishu, Finland scholarship saga. So it's been a whole 4 months and over, if I'm not wrong, of the back and forth, the exchange between the county officials and the parents who had made their contributions to this project. So we are now learning that 40 more students are set to travel to Finland. The timeline is not yet very clear, but reports from Uasin Gishu, from our Uasin Gishu-based correspondents, show that these 40 students met with some county officials on Saturday, and they had a meeting, and this is where they were given their visas, meaning they have been cleared to travel to Finland for education. But so it's not yet clear when they will travel there, because the county officials who are in charge of the whole process did not address the media to give them more information on the same. So basically, it's still a developing story. There's so much to unravel in this story. But so far, the parents are still demanding they be refunded their money that they put there. And we've seen Jackson Mandago, really, who was the governor at the time of when this program was being introduced to residents of Uasin Gishu County. He came out and really said the whole program was not a scholarship per se, and he cleared the air, saying the scholarship term was just a way of making people just selling the entire project, but it never was a scholarship. So basically, Purity, from our reporters on the ground, we are still manning this story to see how it will develop and what really will happen. Will the 40 travel, or will there be any more challenges to come up in future? Purity.
All right, thank you so much for that update. Of course, it's one of the conversations that has been ongoing, especially online. Let's now have a look at what are some of the KOX's now reactions to them, much anticipated talks. They are scheduled to begin today, the bipartisan talks. Remember, the Delaware senator from the US met with opposition leader Raila Odinga. He is also set to meet with the president. Let's talk about what Kenyans are saying, because there were headliners saying we do not want a handshake. Both the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio team, they say we are not about the handshake, but what are Kenyans expecting as the talks begin?
Yes, Purity, of course, this is not a new happening in the country. For those of us who've been here in 2018, in 2007, these talks have been there, and they always culminate to something else. It could be a BBI, could be a handshake, whatever the case. It all depends on the outcomes of the talk. So as of now, we understand both Ruto and Raila are currently attracting talks with international leaders. Yesterday, Raila did share a picture of him and a senator from Delaware State in the United States, and he said they had some meetings there. And of course, going down in history, we understand he's called Chris Kun. Chris Kun is not a new leadership figure in the country. He was part of the team that led, or that came in during the handshake. So he was among the leaders, international leaders, who took part in making sure former President Uhuru Kenyatta and now Azimio leader Raila Odinga had talks, and they agreed on some things, and there was peace. So basically, he's not a new figure in the country in terms of peace and stability of the country. So yesterday he met Raila, and today he's supposed to meet with President William Ruto. So very scanty details about that. But also yesterday, the president went to church in Karen, and after that he flew to Entebbe, where he was hosted by the Ugandan president Yoweri Museveni, and he shared pictures on his social media, said they had a talk in what he called things of mutual interest. He talked of trade, security, and so on and so forth. So this, of course, Ruto's meeting comes like a week after former President Uhuru Kenyatta also met with Yoweri Museveni. The pictures were online, people reacted to it. But what is really coming out is the talks now are beyond the common mwananchi and should I call it, the low-hanging fruits, these leaders who are here. It's now above us. It's bringing together international leaders, because when you look at these pictures being shared, it just means there are talks that are happening. They have not really agreed yet, but they will agree. That is very, very definite. So we'll just see how this develops. Of course, those meetings, they will always come out and tell us we discussed 1, 2, 3. But for us now as Kenyans, the only thing we can do is preempt, criticize, give our opinions, and wait for what they say as the final solution they got.
Absolutely. And remember, Kenyans keep on talking. The Interior CS did issue a warning against violence in case the talks fail, and Kenyans are again asking, how sure are you insinuating that they are really indeed going to fail? But those are some of the stories that we are following up for you. Just before we talk about the Devolution conference, it's set to begin tomorrow. It's a big conversation, definitely, in Uasin Gishu County. We've had this week people talking about the decision by Nguni, the former technical advisor of former president, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, shifting to the Kenya Kwanza and supporting William Ruto. It has been called all names. Yeah, tell us more.
Well, Nguni has been trending, let's say, for the past 1 week, because exactly a week ago he announced his shift of, should I say, support or allegiance from his former boss, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, and now he says he supports the hustler narrative, and he's going to go the William Ruto side. So there was quite conversation in the internet last week, because he's also a big name in the internet space in terms of politics of the country. So yeah, the Nation had an exclusive interview with him. I don't know when, but they shared the interview last week, and he really shed more light into why he decided to shift. He even clarified that yes, he's supporting President William Ruto, but it does not mean that he joined the UDA party. That is what he says. He also says he remains to be a member of KANU, that is former President Daniel Moi's party. So he went ahead to just reveal some of the things that he saw while he was working there. And he was even asked, are you an insider of Azimio? And he said, I was never. He said he was never an insider there. The only thing he used to do there was occasionally write speeches for Raila Odinga. And he says in the previous regime, he was supporting both President Uhuru Kenyatta, the then president, and his then deputy, William Ruto. But then he now goes ahead to say, he went ahead to explain that when Uhuru Kenyatta announced his support for Raila's presidency, he was shocked, but he had nothing to do. After all, he was the boss, and he was working as his technical advisor then. So he says he did not agree with the decision to support Raila, but he had to toe the line. He says he was coerced into supporting the Azimio outfit. He even alleges that his accounts were frozen twice by the Kenya Revenue Authority and the Asset Recovery Authority on two occasions, because he had met with President William Ruto. So that is when he decided to just go in there, toe the line, and do what the government wants. But then he says the political outfit was disorganized. The state officers who were supposed to be giving intelligence reports to guide the Azimio campaign then, they got a bit relaxed on their job. And he also goes ahead to say that the big people in the Azimio coalition were not really supporting the national project. So he also says he felt like Raila got comfortable because he had the state support, the state machinery, and what he called the deep state, which he says he raised an issue with, but he was dismissed. He said, according to him, he says that the deep state at the time was not up to the task of delivering the votes to him. So basically that's just it. He's just spilled the beans. We don't know if the beans he's spilled are real beans or maybe it's politics, So that's just where we are at. But he says Azimio had flaws that made the coalition lose the presidency in 2022 election. Yes.
And finally, Winfrey, with the high cost of living and ahead of the Devolution conference that kickstarts tomorrow, let's talk about the expectations of Kenyans, because of course most of the units are devolved as we speak in this country.
Yes, Purity, the Devolution is celebrating 10 years this week. It's been 10 years since it was now implemented. We understand it came about with the new constitution of 2010, but now we had the first election under the new constitution in 2013 March. That's when President Uhuru came in now as the fourth president. So it's been 10 years, and of course Devolution has come with a lot of successes and failures at some points, because we understand through devolution we have decentralization of services. Nowadays, you know, back in the day you'd have to travel to major cities to get some services like maybe NSSF, NTSA and all those. But nowadays we have Huduma centers in nearly all counties. So the services are easy to access for Kenyans. That's a big plus for devolution. But you also see through devolution we have a lot of pending bills for people who are doing business with county governments. We also have a lot of problem with in the health sector, which is also a devolved function. And when you also look at it, we see there's an issue with boundaries and revenue collection. Most counties don't meet their targets in terms of revenue collection. And in some cases, you find two counties collecting revenue in the same place. So issues with the boundaries and how to collect revenue are some of the things that are also coming out. So basically, when you look at this devolution conference, the main thing it's supposed to address is the high cost of living, food basically. So that's what Kenyans are really looking up to. What does the government have in store for us? What does the county government have in store for Kenyans? But as we all know, the government has on many occasions spoke about just boosting the agricultural sector of the country to make sure there's high crop yields, which will then now translate to food that is being sold to the market. So basically, the president will be in Eldoret today. The deputy president has been there throughout the weekend. We saw him going to visit his driver's residence.